Hi and welcome to yet another Illuminations with Tiina and Fi. I'm Tiina.
And I'm Fi.
Hi Fi. Today we're going to talk about mindfulness, a subject that has, in the last 10 years, probably been coming more and more into the public sphere. Of course, mindfulness has been around for a long, long time. I think what most people think about when they hear about mindfulness is being in the present moment. I think there's much more to it than that. And I think that, Fi, you could maybe start talking a little bit more about mindfulness. You've studied it a lot, and I know that you've had a journey with mindfulness. So over to you.
Thank you, Tiina. Yes, mindfulness. It's a concept, as you say, that's been around for many, many years. Part of the Buddhist tradition has been around mindfulness, which is around, a meditation. I've learned that there are different types of mindfulness. There's what we call the formal, and then there's the informal. So I thought if we talked a bit about the formal first, because I think most people associate the formal and then talk about the informal towards the end.
Okay.
I had an idea, Tiina, and I don't know whether we might at the very end do just a 3-minute breathing space, which is a very short, lovely mindfulness activity. So when we get to the end, maybe I can do that with everybody.
Okay.
If you're okay. So mindfulness, as you say, is all about being in the moment. It's all about being in the now. And there's a lot of research now and evidence to show that people who are experiencing quite challenging feelings, anxiety, stress and depression are managing these and living with them. I don't like the word managing, but are living with them in a better way through the formal side of meditation and mindfulness. I've got a little quote by Kabat-Zinn, he's the co-founder of the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy 8-week courses that I know are really quite big in England and are now being prescribed through the National Health Service in England. And he said that mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. And that's really important. And I hope we come back to that and talking about it. So what the research found was that through people focusing on noticing what they were actually thinking, that it actually started to change what they were thinking, because once you notice your thoughts, then you can start to actually think about what thoughts you have. And it's based on the whole premise, and I have to make sure I get this right, that we are not our thoughts and thoughts are not facts. And when I did the 8-week course myself, we found, we discovered that, of course, thoughts, and through our work, thoughts are not facts. We do the filtering, the deletion and the generalizations that come out from thinking. And when we start to notice our thoughts without judgment, which is really important, just notice them with curiosity, then you can start to see what thoughts are making up the majority of your day, and then how you can start to look at what those thoughts could be. So, yeah.
And I guess it's also about then, when you started noticing those thoughts, to let them just go and not kind of race with them, kind of be swept away with them, but kind of return to okay, what's in the here and now? What's happening right now?
Yes. And we're going to talk further next time about this, but the idea is that you learn to sit with them. You learn to sit with them as well for a while. And what starts to happen is that by sitting with them, they start to shift around. Because I remember my wonderful acupuncturist once said to me that scientifically, once you observe anything, it changes it. And so noticing what you notice, as we say in the NLP world, is the start. And the neuroscience side of it, obviously, is what I love, because what they found, and it's the guy that I met when I went to see the Dalai Lama, Richard Davison. He's the neuroscience has done quite a lot of work around this, but it's a busy mind, and an uncontrolled mind, or a charging around mind, is a dangerous mind. So through meditation and through mindfulness activity, formal practice, the mind learns that you are going to be managing it as opposed to the thoughts managing you. So it knows you're going to sit and have those quiet times, and it learns to behave and respond accordingly. And so the neuroscience side of it is quite amazing. They've now got they had originally the MRI scan, which shows what was, activity in the brain, but they now have what's called fMRI, which shows brain function itself, and that works on the idea of oxygen moving around through the blood and certain areas of the brain. Through meditation, they were able to see that certain areas were receiving more oxygen in them. And so, for example, they found that increased activity, and I have to, because you know me on details, I have to remember all this, the activity in the left frontal regions, they actually are that's where mood gets lifted and enhanced. And that they found that through meditation, that and mindfulness practice, which I think are the same, that started to happen.
Yeah, and now I'm talking more about meditation research, which is sometimes too a little bit different from mindfulness. Of course, they've seen that a 50-year-old person who is meditating regularly has got the same memory capacity as somebody who's not meditating. So, they're discovering more and more stuff of the benefits of mindfulness and of meditation.
And why it's grown, sorry, Tiina.
Go ahead, please.
Well, why it's grown particularly here and now funded through the NHS, because it's always based on evidence-based practice. Anything that comes out through funding on the National Health Service in England, as you know, is because they found it also had a big increase in emotional regulation, and that's why they're now funding it for people to go on an experience. And when I went on the 8-week course, I met people there who had come through the NHS, who had experienced quite serious anxiety and elements of depression. And actually, through the 8-week course, it was amazing what was starting to happen through their formal mindfulness practice, which I actually think is aligned to meditation, if I'm honest, for me, because, you're sitting and, whether it's the formal body scan, there are certain recommendations on types of meditation. So it actually, the research is very similar that you're supporting, but I could see even myself talking with people, the noticing how many thoughts they had that were quite limiting, and realizing that they could choose their thoughts. You only can have one thought at any time, and you can choose that thought. So it's quite interesting. When the penny dropped for many of the people there, they started to realise, so if I notice this thought now and it comes in and comes in and comes in, what could that thought be instead? And they then, around that, you work on how you might look at changing your thoughts.
And I think sometimes people assume that, some people can just be mindful, and they can just meditate, and they kind of get into the Zen moment just like that, and day to day they can go through life being mindful most of the time, as by an automatic button. And of course it takes practice and discipline and more practice and willpower to get there, and I guess the more you're aware about what mindfulness is, the more you're aware of not being there. I think before you start learning about mindfulness, you might think, well, I'm in the present moment all the time because I'm here, aren't I, physically? While mentally your thoughts are somewhere totally different. And when you start kind of practicing it, you notice, oh my gosh, how much have I been present today? Can I remember anything, or what actually happened today? Or have I just been in my thoughts? So practice.
They look at, mindfulness is about exploring the autopilot we go on, because autopilot is great when you're driving a car and things like that. It's really important. But if you're on autopilot where you're allowing these thoughts to come in that are potentially quite limiting, then that's not okay. So they get you to practice coming out of autopilot, sitting in a different seat, eating on a different plate. And so you start to break that pattern of it just being autopilot. Exactly. I mean, I'll talk personally. I mean, my acupuncturist had such a giggle when he heard I was trying to do the body scan, which is 40 minutes. Because by about 25, I was seriously like, a bad behaved child. And I was just running around the room in my head going mad. And when I went to see the Dalai Lama earlier this year, and Matthew Ricard was there, and anybody who wants to follow him, go and have a look on TED Talks, because he does lovely on happiness. But he was talking about this mindfulness, and he was saying how it's like we think we can just go and run a marathon tomorrow, and it is not going to happen. You have to build up. And he said the best way he thought was to do 60 seconds every hour. Just notice on the breath, because the idea of the mindfulness is mainly you always come back to the breath. And bizarrely, a friend of mine went on a silent retreat, and he had lots of anxiety, and he found that was the biggest lesson for him. He came out and it's focusing on the breath, because if you focus on the breath, you can only be in the present. People who aren't in the present are often worrying about the past, or guilty, or feel shame, or whatever around the past, or they're anxious about the future, and so by being actually in the moment, you're just literally in this moment, and what you're actually in the moment, it's your moment, your thought, your breath. It's actually keeping it quite simple.
Yeah. I think that's really important as well, that many people might be feeling very daunted about, okay, so this mindfulness practice, okay, I have to be 40 minutes, I have to be kind of, and that's taxing. And I think I was listening to the Mindfulness Summit in October, on this October as well, in some month's time, recommended. And there's, every day there's a different thought leader on mindfulness, and different take on mindfulness, and different techniques, different practices, and it's about finding your own way. Just like you said, 60 seconds every hour. That is like, oh, well, that's not that tough. I think it's also very important to find your why. Why would I want to be mindful? What's my win? And I think for me, really my win and my gain of it was when I thought about being with my daughter. It's like, when I'm playing with her, I'm not there. I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about what to cook for dinner. And I was like, this is not on. She's not going to be little for very much longer. One day she's going to be 21, and you're not going to see her again. And that was my reason. It's like, okay, I want to be present with her, in particular, in other moments as well in my life. But that was the why for me. And I think it's needed to kind of go on that journey. Like, why would I want that?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And I think, that's really great to have, when you're with your daughter, that you're in that moment totally and utterly. And that brings us to the informal side. So we've talked about the formal, now there's the informal. And the informal is exactly that. There's a very famous activity you do on the 8-week course. And I did it when I did the certificate in therapeutic practice use of mindfulness. And you get a raisin, and you mindfully have this raisin. And it is the most incredible experience, because, raisins make quite a racket. Seriously, if you get a raisin and roll it around near your ear, it's really noisy. And so you look at it. Yeah. Try it now. You and your daughter, maybe said the name, don't know if you want to say the name, but you and your daughter, have a go. It's amazing. Have a look at it. Really look at a raisin. It's the most peculiar thing when you start to look at it. Why would you ever put it in your mouth? and then listen to it, and you smell it, and then you put it in and lick it, and it was mindful. And I know my washing up is often rubbish, because I've learned that when I wash up, I'm thinking about this, something about that, busy. I'm a classic where mindfulness helps my brain, because I do have a busy brain, and I'm thinking of 15 things one after the other. You can only do one thought at a time, so there's no such thing as multitasking. They've proved that, because you can only have one thought at a time. And that's why my washing up has got better, because I'm in the moment of that. And that's just simple, but if you practice exactly by being in the moment on, like, brushing your teeth or making a cup of tea every morning, you learn to be in the moment. And of course, a lot of that is about experiencing joy in that moment as well, if you're really in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I also think that, when we're talking about formal mindfulness, when you're kind of doing the practice of mindfulness, you're obviously very much trying to focus on the now. But I think in the informal mindfulness, it's not possible or desirable to be mindful all the time. We need to have time to reflect on the past, take our learnings from the past, dream about the future, set our goals for the future, and kind of, have conversations with our friends about, oh, wasn't that fun 3 years ago, whatever. So mindfulness is not a constant state of being, whether it's formal or informal. It's a part of life where you kind of dip in and out, I think, of that.
Yeah, and to be honest, Tina, sometimes it's, not being in the moment. It can be helpful in avoiding uncomfortable situations, or is it in denial? Maybe we might look at that next time.
Yes.
I know when I was in a relationship that I was not very happy being in, I was really not in the moment at all, and that's for quite a long time. So I learned to what we call disassociate quite a lot. So I lived mainly in the past and the future, and didn't live in the now. And that did have quite serious repercussions for my mental health. But also I've had to learn, because my preference is big picture style, but I'm learning not only to notice the detail of things around me, but the beauty of it and being in the moment. And actually, even in discomfort, sometimes being in the moment is important, because by feeling it, you move through it, as you and I know through our grief recovery program, which I know we'll look at another time. But so it's an interesting one all around that.
It certainly is a subject. I mean, there's, we could talk about this for 10 hours, and then, there would be somebody who has studied it for many years, who talked about it for a week, so this is just scratching the surface on the subject.
I think this is a really helpful book. I know, can you see that? Yeah, David Williams, is it Mark Williams? David Williams. Mark Williams. That's the book that really kind of created quite a stir, and it's also got the CD at the back, which has got a lot of the meditations on it, mindfulness practice, and that's really very good. And I know that there are mindfulness courses online. One of my clients is actually just about to do the 8-week course online. So there are other ways people can develop. I think what John Kabat-Zinn says about is he says that it's really helpful to be taught it. It's a bit like yoga. You don't just do it. You watch videos or go on courses or attend classes. It's the same with mindfulness. It's helpful to be taught it. So either online or on the course itself, or reading books or whatever. So it helps you to develop that practice. But yes, so what for you are the benefits of you? Because I know you do a lot of meditation. So what for you are the personal benefits of doing the meditation?
From sitting and meditating is definitely calmness, and it's funny because meditation, your aim is to kind of still the mind. Sometimes when I go into a meditative practice, I have the most brilliantly creative, beautiful ideas. Sometimes I actually have paper in front of me, and while I'm I said close my eye, I just have to jot it down, so I know that it will disappear otherwise. And in a way, it's my mind kind of just dumping all these useful, creative ideas, woof, and then I can kind of calm down and be in that kind of present moment. And my mind wanders constantly, you know, like, oh, okay, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. But when I reach those milliseconds of bliss, of whatever you want to call it, bliss, joy, nothingness, those milliseconds are the most beautiful experience for me. And I come out of my meditative practice or meditation very calm. And that makes me a better person in my relationships, I think, very much so. Whereas mindfulness in the day-to-day, like I said with my daughter, that's the biggest impact. To be in play with her, to listen to what she's saying, being there is the absolute biggest benefit for me. And what about you?
It's interesting. I'm definitely better and better at doing the mindfulness informal. I am reminded in preparing for or thinking about our chat today that I have let go of the mindfulness practice, and I can tell because I get quite hot. Recently, my blood pressure, as you know, has slightly been a challenge, which has been a bit of a surprise for someone who lives fairly healthily. And I think that's a result of that. I think my busy brain and my adrenaline high, you know, is missing that calming, how you described it. And I know that when I do have mindful practice, you know, there are lots of thoughts, but what I love this language I heard the other day of someone, he said, just escort your mind back home to the breath. Oh, that was lovely. You know, escort your mind back to the breath. And I thought, oh, I like that. And I know, you know, I've learned to do it without judgment, so I don't go, oh, no, you've got another thought going, oh, no, you've got another thought, because that is not what it's about. It is just to notice with kindness. I had a fantastic teacher on the course who was brilliant in helping, you know, us do it with very kindness to ourselves. So actually, you know, it's funny, I've this morning sat and put, right, what do I want to do to bring in about self-care? And starting with the 3-minute breathing space every day is a good start for me. Definitely.
And I think,
should we do that?
Yeah, let's do that. I just want to say one thing. It's like when you said in the end, for me, and if that's the thing, you know, like I talked about before, you listening out there, go find your thing, what works for you, you know, and God, there's so much on YouTube. There's books, as you said, you know, there's courses, you know, there's really a wealth of information out there. So, but yes, let's do the 3-minute thing, Steve.
Okay, so what I'd like everybody to do is just to make sure they're all sitting in a kind of what we call, I love this language, in a position that leads to you falling awake. So when obviously you're doing any kind of mindful practice / meditation, it's important to be in a place where you are relaxed but actually falling awake. So just get yourself comfortable. If you are sitting, make sure your feet are on the floor if you can. I'm a bit of a shorty, so my feet are always a challenge to reach the floor on a chair. You can sit on the floor. I love to do it sitting on the floor, cross-legged, whatever. Lying down, as you know, if you can keep falling awake, that would be good as well. So just get yourself into a comfortable position. What I'd like you to do is just, as you breathe in and as you breathe out, I just would like you to become aware of the body. Become aware of sensations in the body. Any tensions, any slight pain, anything inside the body that just comes to your notice. Any sensations on the skin outside the body. So just notice what is happening for you physically as you're in the space that you're filling at this time. And just notice while you breathe in and breathe out. And now I'd like you to bring your attention to the breath. I'd like you to notice as you breathe in and breathe out, and just breathe in and breathe out normally, in a normal way, whatever's normal for you. If you want to practice deeper breathing, breathe in for 7 and breathe out for 11. But just focus on your breath at this time, entering into the body, noticing where it goes, how far down into the body does it go, does it get as far as the diaphragm? Notice physically what happens to the body as you breathe in, and then let the breath out, and just notice what happens physically as you breathe out. And just follow the breath as you breathe. Any thoughts that you have that take you away from the breath, just with kindness and curiosity, just bring those thoughts, just notice those thoughts and bring your attention back to the breath. Escort your mind back home to the breath. And now what I'd like you to do is, as you breathe in, let the breath flow to those places in the body where you had sensations and noticed feelings and noticed pain. Just let the breath flow into those areas, and as you breathe out, let the tension, let the pain flow out through with the breath. Just breathe in. Let the breath go to places in the body where you notice sensation, and let the breath flow out. And I'd like you to bring yourself back into the space where you are, wherever you might be. And when you're ready, let the light come into your eyes and just come back to the now. So I can manage that.
Me too. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Fi.
Pleasure.
I think we'll end our Illuminations there today. That feels like a good place to leave it. I feel extremely calm now. I hope you out there listening also went through that short practice. We'll see you next time. Bye from Tiina.
Can I just say, Tiina, usually we leave with a question. So how about,
Okay.
just as a thought, how about we ask people to think about what activity on a daily basis could people out there think about being more mindful doing? So just an everyday activity, choose one and just take your time to be mindfully in it as you do it, whether it's your first cup of tea or coffee, brushing your teeth, washing up, one activity a day, and just select that and just see what happens when you start to be in it. Notice what you notice.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely one. Good. See you next time, Fi.
Thanks, Tiina. Bye now.
Bye.